We're already on air.
On air.
So, first things first, how are you?
Very good.
Pretty good. We're in
Yes.
Amsterdam and the sun is shining.
It's a beautiful day.
It is.
It's a
Very good.
perfect day.
So, what I want to start with, Daïm, do you remember your first impression of Donata?
Well, the first impression was we both studied at the conservatory here in Amsterdam, and Donata did a solo project, well, not a solo project, but with two other musicians, and it was this sort of a theater play kind of thing. It was called
Crazy.
Sally. What was it called again?
Sally Thunderstorm.
Yeah. And it was the first time that I saw something different than just bands playing, you know, because it's just musicians and they form bands, and this was the first thing that had like a more intense sort of layer to the music, and that intrigued me very much. And then after the show, I walked away. We never spoke to each other before. We saw each other in the hallway sometimes, but and then I walked up to the stage and then I told her, like, "Wow, thank you. That was really amazing." And then I walked away.
And I told him, you are really amazing as well.
So you knew about
I
his
saw
music?
him before. I think I
Okay.
saw him the day before because we had our exams. All the
Right.
concerts were the exams. And so I remember that was the first conversation we
Yeah,
had.
there was blocks of 3 or 4 nights, and then different years and different bands would play.
Yeah, but he came to me and he said like it was really great, and I looked at him and said, "You're really great too." So that was, I don't know, the first thing I really remember. I
Yeah.
saw you before, but that was the first
Yeah.
real
Interaction.
interaction. Yeah,
The first impression.
kind of.
And Donata, do you, because Daïm describes the music as being somewhat different of what was there those evenings. So do you remember that gig? Do you remember playing?
Oh, I do. Yeah, it was very theatrical. It was kind of a theater piece, and I remember I was this character, this girl that ran away and loses her mind and joins a cult and completely just doesn't know who to trust, and she paints her face with lipstick and people are singing at her, so it was quite an
It was
intense.
quite intense,
It was
insane.
like 5 songs, but there was a lot
Yeah.
happening, and I was dancing around a lot. And there were just 2 musicians, one bass player and a piano player, but they were both really doing a lot, and it was really cool. It was a lot of fun.
And every act got, I think, 15 minutes or 20. So
Yeah,
it
we
was a
were
lot
a bit-
of information.
We were a bit longer, I think, that night. Yeah.
So musically, was there an immediate connection after that first interaction? You thought, oh, I like to work with?
Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
There was a certain energy, definitely.
So
I-
how long did it take from that moment those to
3 years?
3 years.
Yeah.
Well, you asked me to play with you already.
Yeah, 2 years
in your
before you
band?
actually did.
And then it never really happened.
We were hanging out with a friend at his place, and we were listening to music together, and we were talking about having a project together, but it never happened.
No.
So there were many moments where it almost happened, but it never did. And then when it did, then we really took off and like took the big steps. And
so what was different that final time where it did happen?
I think
yeah,
time.
the timing
Yeah.
was really different. We were both ready to leave Amsterdam, even though we love Amsterdam a lot. And but we were both like, we have to experience something new.
Yeah.
And then Berlin was the first thing that came up. Somehow it was quite an accident, and he wanted to move as well. So
We had the urge to try something different
Yeah.
and throw ourselves into the deep and just see where the road takes us next.
and that doesn't happen with a lot of people. That both people want to experience something new at the same time. So.
Yeah.
And was it a musical thing as well, that you wanted to discover new music? Berlin, very much
for sure.
healthy music.
Well, maybe unhealthy.
Healthy isn't the right word.
Healthy is not the right word here,
But it's definitely inspiring. It has been inspiring to us. Of course, the underground electronic music
Right.
scene is huge there,
Yeah.
and it inspired us to sort of create the sound of our album.
Because did you mentioned kind of when you graduated it was very theatrical, and so
Yeah.
did your kind of influences or musical background, did it match?
I think so. In many ways, it did. It also complements each other
Yeah.
every now and then. But we have
It was, I
a
think
very
that-
similar taste mostly, which
We
is
do.
funny.
Yeah,
So when I show him something or he shows me something, it mostly explodes as much as it does for him, for me. So when he shows me a song he loves, I'm mostly also blown away by it.
So what was maybe a band or a song that he's shown you recently that you were...
He reintroduced me to Ben Howard recently. I loved him already, but then he kind of relived the experience of discovering it, and then I also really got into it back again. You know, that was really cool.
And there for you, what makes Ben Howard?
It's the dynamics and the even though you don't really always understand what he's singing about because he has very complex sentences and word choices, but you really grasp the essence of what music is about, or he does, and he's very good in being able to share it with the world, and everybody gets it.
And so is that kind of what you're aiming for in your music as well, to kind of communicate what you feel you need to communicate?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Definitely.
I think experiences, the whole moving away from Amsterdam, from a place you love to a place that you want to make your new place of art, you know, and place of creation, and it was kind of difficult because we got robbed just pretty much like a month before we moved, so we lost all of our backline, and that made everything quite heavy, and we needed to recover from that for like a year. And more maybe.
It took us down, definitely.
Yeah, it did. But
so not the best start to...
No, definitely not.
But maybe it was good, you know, for a fresh start.
It was very interesting because we kind of hit rock bottom in some ways, because we stood there without instruments and without money, and we were like, wow, you know, but we still have so much. Actually, I mean, we have parents, we had a place in Berlin, and you know, life is still
not about
good.
materialistic
still,
stuff.
we were struggling, and we wrote about that. And,
So how many songs did you have ready before moving to Berlin?
I think.
Was it most of it?
It was a big pool of songs, and there was old songs, and we redid the songs, and then we threw them away, and then
we were also still figuring out a way to find a flow, to create, and to find a new sound and new inspiration to sing about, to write songs about. And then moving to Berlin was the big first step. And then we arrived there and we're like, shit, okay, we have all this new great opportunity to record an album and to make an album, but what's it going to be about?
Yeah, and then the old songs got a new context.
They did as well.
So they got a completely new sound. Just everything about it changed emotionally. I don't know. It sounds completely different than the demos that I made here or that we prepared, and completely new world.
It has grown into the story of us too, the experiences we made there.
Can you give me an example of a song, maybe one of the older ones that kind of went through this evolution?
Yeah, I think 6 or 7 weeks is a good example, because that was, I remember it was a memo on my phone, and I just made it backstage at the Melkweg, actually.
Sure.
And I was having a show with a band, and I just had this idea in my head, and just recorded this memo, and then I didn't listen to it for a couple of weeks, and then I made a little demo of it a couple of weeks later, and I don't know, it was kind of nice.
It turned out into a loop song, actually.
Yeah, I made a loop song out of it, and then I showed it to him, and he loved it, but we couldn't really.
There was no groove in it yet. There was no, there was no vibe. Well, there was a vibe, but no dancey vibe.
Yeah, and then we dropped it for 2 years, and then I kind of said like, let's pick it up now, and then we sat down, and
within 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was.
We had a structure, we had a groove, we had a vibe, we had a chord progression.
Okay.
And it was way more fun than the version before. It was way cooler.
And in terms of, because you say the emotional kind of context changed as well. So what was that first year like? Did you enjoy it? Maybe in hindsight you can look at it fondly, but at the time, was that first year? How did you experience that?
It was. We couldn't really find our home there. Okay. I mean, we moved there, but it was difficult to realize that we actually had moved there.
Right.
I think we got a bit heavy. I think we kind of lost our humor. We got a bit cynical, and then we were like, why? Why is this happening? Why are we being so...
We forgot to have fun.
I think. So we were very just strict
Yeah.
with ourselves.
And we're like, we have to be serious now because
with music.
this is now or never. We have to make this album, and then we got lost in our own mind, in our own heads, in our own thoughts.
Yeah, and also being Rob makes you like a bit feel a bit dark, you know.
Sure.
And I
Traumatized.
took us a year to get rid of that kind of
energy,
feeling,
that,
you know.
that vibe.
And,
Yeah,
that vibe. It was this very strong vibe, and we were like. Ugh.
And of course, also the city. It's quite a big city, you know. And
Sure.
I'm used to living in Holland, and there is no city in Holland that is as big as Berlin.
Right.
And you're from Bonn, and then you move to Amsterdam, which is
So it was slightly
quite
getting
petite.
bigger. Yeah.
And then we moved there. We're like, we'll do it. You know, we'll be fine. And then we arrived there, and it was like, shit, what the fuck?
Yeah, the first year was tough, and then we could laugh about it.
We've been traveling a lot before that, so we thought it's easy. You know,
Right.
we're used to some bigger cities, but it's different
Right.
when you move your whole being and your yourself to another
And
city.
your lifelines as well, the social circles you had.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of
And our
course.
family was further away than ever because I mean, everybody thought like, oh, Donata, she's moving back to Germany. But actually, it's 3 times as far away from my family than Amsterdam.
Right.
Because Amsterdam, I can step on the train and I'm there in 3 hours, and from Berlin it takes like 7, 8, sometimes 10 hours when the traffic is
Right.
bad. Or
Definitely.
When I miss the train. I don't know. It can take forever.